So we're here with David Blagg. My name's Jeff Barnes. We were talked a little bit about some maintenance on fan drives, and we're just going to take you through what to look for. If you're looking at your fan drives, we do have some alerts that are coming out nowadays that will help us understand if we're starting to have an issue with that fan drive based on the engine speeds. And Dave's by far a better expert than I am, so we're just going to go through, talk a little bit about it, and learn a little bit more about these fan drives. So as you guys are looking at the fan drives, you can kind of know a little bit more what to look for to kind of head off some problems. So David, if you wouldn't mind just kind of taking us through a little bit here on the actual drive, and we'll just kind of have a conversation.
Jeff, I can tell you, and most fan drive problems, 90% are always belt related. What happens is, which this belt, if you run your finger across the backside, you can almost start to feel a lip. Once you can actually physically see the belt rolling on the backside, it's actually past its wear point. So what happens when this belt gets wore? Of course, it's a variable speed system, which pulleys are constantly doing this in and out. What happens once the belt gets wore too far, the system is set up to specs for the belt in specs. So what happens is, let's say the ECU tells the tractor, well, we need to speed the fan up. Okay, so it starts squeezing these pulleys down, the fan starts speeding up. Well, there's a lot of inertia going on with this big old fan blade. So it reaches that point, and once it reaches that point, what happens if this belt is wore, that fan will actually, when the ECU tells the driver to stop the pulleys, that inertia will actually slip the pulley inside the belt. So what happens, this is what causes your high fan speed code. Well, of course, once you get the high fan speed code, ECU detects it. The next thing is, well, we got to slow it down. It's running too fast. So here we go. We're starting the process. It's going down and up. Probably most customers notice when they're driving across the field that you got your window rolled down, you hear that tractor, it's out there in the fan, or it sounds like the motor just revving up, idling down, revving up, idling down. 9 times out of 10, it's always the belt. Like I said, just look for signs of the belt being wore on the backside. If it's rolled, it's past the point, it needs to be changed out. Some other common problems is oil leaks, and you'll notice behind this rubber seal right here, which we'll have one pulled apart on the tailgate over here, you'll notice oil kind of trickling down. That could possibly be a bearing. You're getting some slack in it, which allows the shaft to flop around. Now, just because it does look oily, that means it's always oil. It could be grease. You know, these fan drives are greased, serviced. When they're serviced right, they're greased. So that grease gets hot sometimes, and it will kind of, trickle out. Only time I'd worry about an oil issue is if it's actually, you see motor oil running down, or hydraulic oil. If it's dripping, then it's to the point to where it needs to be repaired. Another thing to look for to know that the belt's issued is these pulleys right here will actually change colors. After it slips for so long, this outside pulley can kind of turn colors. We can show you that on the one that's tore down.
There's a couple of speed sensors you mentioned earlier. About showing us where those are and what to look for.
Yes, sir. This wiring harness here, and just for some of you guys that may have older tractors, I guess they think about this. Some of the earlier tractors, the fan drive is actually going to be mounted on the right-hand side of it. So just FYI. But anyway, this is the harness that goes to the fan speed sensor. That'd probably be the first thing I'd want to look at if I raised the hood and the belt wasn't all, shredded or rolled on the backside. And what you can do, I don't know if we can zoom in enough, but there's actually little counting teeth on the backside of this driven pulley that matches up with the speed sensor itself. For some reason, if it's more or less than about 2 zip ties of a gap, if it's more or less, we could have a bearing going out because this sensor actually screws in to a certain point. I mean, there's no adjustment on it. So if you've got more than 2 zip ties gap or less than 2 zip ties gap, that tells me that we've probably got a bearing on the driven side going out, and that would cause some of your issues too. Now, one thing while we're standing here, what I would also check if you did have to replace this belt is sometimes this back set of pulleys, which there's no oil that runs through them, there's no grease, it's a self-contained unit. What can happen is the splines back here can actually wear out. So that would also cause your fan speed codes. And the way to tell about that is once you get this outer pulley off, get your belt off, get the slack off these pulleys, what you'd want to do is grab the pulleys and just try to see if you can rock them back and forth. If you can rock them back and forth, then the splines they're worn to a point where they need to be replaced.
You said this service point on this is there is a grease. You mind showing us where you actually grease at?
There is a grease point. Does not come with a grease element in it, strictly due to the fact that the factory doesn't want it over greased. You know, right here in the center of this shaft, there's like a vent plug. You can pull it out, screw it out, put your grease element in it. I don't know if y'all can see that, but if not, we can see it on the one that's on the tailgate over here. Type of grease that Deere prefers is the SD polyurea grease because it's a high temp, high extreme grease. So that way it's going to stay in there. And you're only looking at maybe 2 shots out of a grease gun when you service it. You know, maybe probably once every 2 weeks, just put you 2 shots in it and then let it roll.
Okay. Let's walk over here to the.
Well, as you can tell, I mean, this belt is definitely bad. I mean, what happened on this one, we actually had a customer that changed out his own belt. As you can see, this belt doesn't look too bad. Which, you know, we explained the process of how to check the belt to the customer, and he noticed his belt was rolled on the backside. The tractor had been running for a while, so what happens, he puts his new belt on, and what happened is because of some of the slack and the wear in the splines, well, it just jerked the teeth off of it. So that is something, you know, that could happen too, you know, if you let it run for a long time. So, and as you can tell, the backside of the belt has no waves in it, no shredding on the sides.
So once the belt starts going, you got to just take us through the process of what's going to start wearing as the belt's wearing out. What's going to start wearing on the drive?
So usually what starts wearing out is if you keep running the machine. As we talked about the discoloration a while ago, you can tell this top pulley, which would have been the outer pulley over there, it's already started discolorating. I mean, that's just a sign of heat. And the only place this can get heat from is from the belt because you got the fan constantly pulling air across it, so that's what's causing it. Now, once that belt starts wearing, I don't know if you can see, if you run them for a long time, if you can run your finger across this pulley and you feel waves in it, it's no different than a clutch in your truck if you've got a standard transmission. I mean, it's got to be a smooth surface. If not, what usually happens, you put a new belt on it, and it's just like putting a clutch in one. It's not going to last very long. This pulley is the same. This is actually the drive pulley because it's got the splines in it. It's the same way you want to look, feel for waves. Now you might feel just a little bit. You know, if you can just barely feel it. Now I'm not saying it's worth replacing if you can just barely feel it. But if it gets to a point to where you're actually feeling a wave, then we've got issues. You know, it needs to be replaced. And most time you're going to get some of that oil leakage too. So we'll just disassemble this one here. So this is just a rubber skirt that we was looking at over there for where the oil would come out. Okay. I don't know if we can see, which we know this fan drive assembly here, this pulley assembly is bad. Once we've got it, let me get this plug here on. So now that we've got it taken off, which this is just grease, it's not oil, but you can kind of see shiny glittery in it. That glitter is actually from where these splines have started coming apart inside here. Okay, so I don't know if you could tell, but if you could tell, look how narrow the splines are. And this is a new pulley. We'll look and see how thick the splines are on it. Okay. And what happens also is if these splines wear, with it being a variable system that's got to go in and out, well, if you get wear on the spline, most times they're not going to be even, so it's not going to even let the pulleys go in and out as smooth as they should, which could cause issues with speed too. So, another thing to look at while you have it this far down is just checking. Like I said, we want to check for bearing slack, especially if we have any kind of oil leaks. If it looks like engine oil leaking, more than likely, probably this bearing, we hardly ever have any issues with this bearing here. What happens is the back bearing goes out or gets slack in it, and there's a seal back here that protects the oil from coming into the housing. So what happens when this bearing gets flagged in it, it starts wiping the seal out, and the oil transfers across through this bearing here, and it just works its way down. Now, if we have hydraulic oil, looks like hydraulic oil coming out, which I didn't think about. We'd have to get a puller to pull these pistons out. But there's actually these 3 pistons right here have O-ring seals. What'll happen is if that thing's constantly, surging in and out, well, every time it goes in and out, it's wear on those piston seals. So what could happen is it'll just wear one of them off, and now you've got hydraulic oil leaking out. So if you see hydraulic oil, then this is the issue with pistons.
So when we're sending out an alert to a customer that they've had a fan drive alert, and we're starting to possibly see some issues. First thing look at is the belt.
First thing is look at the belt. And the next thing is to really ask the customer, because like I said, we try to help customers as much as we can. We know that sometimes we get busy in our shop, we might not be able to make it. Plus, some customers, they're just capable of making these small repairs. We want to be able to help them do that. So first thing we're going to do is say, look, is your belt got the wave in the back of it where it's rolled up on the edge or missing any teeth? If it does, then the next thing we want to ask them is, well, did you notice that the fan was surging up and down? Okay, if he agrees, then we want to know how long has it been doing. If the guy says it just started that, we're going to tell him, well, just put a belt on it. You're probably going to be all right. Probably 90% of the time, if you just stopped it then, or if you run it a couple of days, you're all right. Customer says, well, it's been doing it for a month or so. More than likely, if he's running for a month, we're already at this stage. I mean, this is just a normal wear stage for one that's been surging for about a month or two. If you run one longer than that, it even looks more catastrophic once you get through.
All right. So hopefully this video helps. We'll be doing some more videos like this to help understand some of these alerts that may be coming out and what you can do to look for to help make sure your machine avoids some downtime. Like I said, some of these things can be as simple as changing out a belt and helping extend the life of some of these. We appreciate it.